Welcome to a tutorial video on CSS basics. In this video I'm going to discuss ID and class. ID and class are two other examples of selectors. In the previous video we talked about using tags as selectors. We could affect the entire contents of a tag by using its name. And we discussed in the previous video how CSS rules cascading style sheets cascade down from a parent to its child elements until there are no other children found for which the rules can apply, and they cascade down, move from parent to child to child. In this video, I'm going to discuss ID and class as different ways to get around that idea. In the previous video, I showed that if we take rules away and we just had a rule of gray on the body, right here, line 2, then it would affect all of the content, all of the children elements of the body. And so all of the content within the body tag of the HTML document, all of its text that is, would be gray. However, as discussed in the previous video, we could write very different and overwritten rules, lines 5 and line 8, for H1 and the paragraph tag. And we could use those as selectors to select that content and change its presentation. ID and class are very similar ideas, but approach the same problem differently. The ID is a way to select a very specific element, a tag, within an HTML document. An ID should be unique for that tag or element within the entire HTML document. So it is an easy way then to find a very specific section, a very specific tag or element, and apply some new rules to that. And we see that here on line 8. I've added a span tag with the total content of paragraph. I've given it the idea of para, ID equals para, within an attribute of the opening tag of this span. This allows me to very specifically find this content, this very unique ID within this HTML document, and apply some rules to it. Coming over to the style.css document, we see when we want to use an ID, the attribute ID within CSS, we use the hash to start it. Notice hash and then the name para, and then same as we used in the previous video when we're using tags as selectors, we write our rules within an opening and closing curly brackets. In this case, color purple. And so, for the tag or element with the ID of para, it will apply these rules. Line 11, color purple. The other thing that's covered in this video is class. So if an ID allows us to find a very specific single tag or element within an HTML document, a class works as one abstract layer up. Instead of a very single specific element or tag, we can find a class of them, or a classification of them is an easy way to think about this. So instead of a very single one, an ID that's very, very targeted to a single tag or element, we can instead group things together under a class. So instead of applying rules to the selector of tags, a body or H1 or paragraph as discussed in the previous video, we can instead group things by a class. See here on line 7, we're using the attribute class equals orange text. Then again on line 9. Remember I mentioned that IDs have to be unique within the document. This rule does not apply to class. We can use the class attribute to define multiple classes of things and give that class attribute to multiple elements, multiple tags within an HTML document, so we can apply those rules multiple times. So whereas ID is unique, a class can be applied to multiple things and they can have the same classification or the same class attribute. So let's see all of this in practice. As we see here, this is a heading. Our H1 content is orange. This is red. Paragraph is purple. And this is a different paragraph, is orange again. Let's come back to the code. As we see, the class orange text is applied to this is a heading, the content of the H1 tag. Within the paragraph tag, the initial content, the initial text is this is which was red. But within the span, which was within the paragraph, the content paragraph was purple. And again, for the extra paragraph tag with the attribute class equals orange text, this is a different paragraph. If we come over and look at the style.css file, we see the previously discussed use of the ID para lines 10 through 12. If we're using a class, it starts with a period. So we see orange text defined as a class lines 13 through 15. And again, like all selectors and as discussed in the previous video, it's enclosed with an opening and closing curly brackets and the rules we want to use here. So as we can see, we can apply orange text, a class, by applying that attribute to multiple elements within the HTML document. Those rules then will be applied to those elements unless they are overwritten within other rules given to something. So as we saw, paragraph, the text should be red, but the latest rule for the span within the paragraph, because of the ID para, was for this text to be different color. And we saw that in the previous video. When we applied color gray to everything within the body, it was gray unless another rule overwrote that, which we saw for H1 when it has its own rule, and for the paragraph, which has its own rule. The same applies here. The rules cascade down, remember, from parent to child to child to child to child, until there are no more things to apply it to, unless it is overwritten by some other rules. So we saw that in the previous video with the rules for H1 and paragraph. We're seeing it in this video on ID and class, where if a class is applied to something, for example, right here on line 7, it has a class attribute orange text, then those rules override any existing rules that were previously given to it. The same for the ID on line 8 here for the span tag that's defined here. So we see the span defined right here. We see the paragraph defined right here. And so again, the rules cascade down unless they are overwritten somewhere. And we can use an ID to target a very specific element within an HTML document because all IDs have to be unique. And we can use a class to apply multiple things and give those multiple rules. In each case, for the ID, for the class, and for the tag explained in the previous video, the rules cascade down across elements until they run into a new rule that then overrides the previous one. Thanks for watching.